Plunder Den. In this week's episode, we're going to be building some simple walls and fences. So before we get started here, I just want to mention that obviously you can hear my voice isn't sounding that great. I was sick last week, and unfortunately I missed last week's episode. But this week we're back at it. So otherwise I feel fine. I just sound kind of funny. But this episode was basically I decided to do something a little more simple walls and fences. And it's something that I already touched on last year. But in that episode, I mentioned that I wanted to do different variations of it. Same with the plant life scatter terrain. There's a few projects that I did last year that I could do a lot of different variations of, and I wanted to revisit those and do different kinds of ones. So let's take a look at it. The best way to look at it is to show you my example. So this is the finished product, and the same as I did before, 2 of each type. That's what I built here. So we'll start with this one here. So this is kind of more of a Celtic fence. That's where I got the inspiration. But I plan on using this for whatever game I'm playing. It could be Blood and Valor, Blood and Steel, Blood and Plunder. You could use this for Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer. Again, these are all generic pieces of terrain. But if I were to pick a certain culture that it fits more in the Celtic kind of thing. And I'm looking at maybe building an entire fort like that would be really cool. But I was maybe adding this to a watchtower. Anyways, so there's more future projects, I think, in this kind of themed wall. But anyways, that's one. So there's the front of it and the back. And similar to the other ones, I have kind of like a gravel back and then more of the plant life on the front side, right? So, and I got 2. I put a little bit of lavender on there. I just wanted to add some variety of plant life. So that's the first set. The second set is I went back to another stone wall. But this is more like flagstones where they have the... these are actually seen in Europe and also in North America. They've used this kind of assembly of stone wall. And I used, again, that dollar store flocking that I've been using. I really like this stuff. I've been really using this a lot more than my regular flocking from Army Painter. I like that stuff too, and I'll probably still use it. But I definitely like the variety it gives. So I did all these actually with that moss that I got from the dollar store. All right, so that's the second one, sorry. So I get same thing in the back, gravel back. Let's take a look at this one here. This is another second one. Again, like I said, I made 2 of each. So then the third and final one is a standard log fence. So this would be something that you would see on the frontier, North America, definitely where we're going in Blood and Plunder into the 18th century. This would have been a simple kind of wall construction for a farm or whatever, right? So I definitely wanted to get this kind of fence in there. So we got that same thing, gravel in the back, and kind of plant life on the front. And we got 2 of those. There's the other one. All right, so that's what we're going to be building in today's episode. I hope you guys like what we're doing here at the Plunder Den, and make sure you smash that like button and consider subscribing to the Plunder Den, and get first-hand information when I start these kind of projects. All right, everyone, let's get down to the table and let's start painting and let's start crafting. Okay, so I started this project off with we got some insulation foam here. We got some popsicle sticks, a little bit of dollar store foam board. That's still that willow fencing I used to build the native fortification. Some just hobby stones. That's that flocking or moss that I got from the dollar store. And then some balsa wood and some more insulation foam. So I started off by cutting out some dollar store foam board, and I kind of used the previous walls that I built as a measuring tool, just so they're kind of uniform and they look kind of the same size. So I cut out 6 pieces. So essentially, I'm going to make 3 different types, the same as last time. I just used my Olfa box cutter there and just measured out with a ruler and cut it out. So then I moved to covering them with black craft paint right away. So I decided to do this early on, just to kind of, so there was no warping. If you take care of this right away and put black paint on both sides, that counteracts each other and you get nice flat pieces. And then when you build things on it, you don't get any of that warping. Now, there's all sorts of other techniques you could use. You could use PVA glue. Some people have used Mod Podge, anything like that to stop the warping. I just use craft paint. It works just fine. So I started off, I wanted to build that Celtic wall that I showed you in the intro. And I just cut out some popsicle sticks. And it looks kind of like a white picket fence, to be honest. One of the reference pictures I looked at, that's kind of what it looked like, was just some framing. And definitely this is something I would like to explore further. So I grabbed my Mini, as I usually do, and measured it out to make sure I get the right height. And I'm just laying them out so they fill the entire essentially base piece here. And then you can see I texturalized them with my little hobby knife here. And just give it a little bit of a wood grain. So similar to most of the builds that I've done with these kind of things, popsicle sticks. So then I got some balsa wood. I had these wider flat pieces left over. And I actually just used my Olfa knife to cut them in half. Because I wanted a little bit of a skinnier piece. You can actually get balsa wood in that size pre-cut already. But I used that all up already. So I'm just going to use this other stuff. And I'm just kind of putting a frame on there. Again, for my reference pictures, this is kind of what it looked like. So I kind of wanted to stay true to the images I saw. So I'm just going to glue these together with white tacky glue. So I'm going to glue each popsicle stick together and then glue the balsa wood to the outside as well. So you can see this is after it's kind of dried. And this is after about 10 minutes. It gets pretty sturdy right away. There's a little bit of glue on the table, but I just kept moving it, and then it dried pretty fast. So that's more square balsa wood that I use kind of make the posts in my houses that I built. And I decided to put them on the corner and put some posts on these walls. It gives a little more stability and also helps on the corner here because I do want to have it cornered on the one side so it connects to another piece of wall. And then I realized I didn't make it long enough on the very end, so I added a little bit of a couple more planks on the end. And now it's right to the edge, as you can see here. And I got it right off to an angle on the other side, so I can connect 2 walls together, so I can make an L shape. I know if I made 2 more, I can make a complete box, but we need to make one with a gateway maybe next time, instead of just having it just walls. So then I'm just going to add some more framing details with some more balsa wood and some coffee stir sticks. And I'm going to frame the back as well. Just showing you here. Yeah. Just so you get kind of that same support beam on the back side as well. So I'm just going to cut that out with a pair of scissors. The great thing about that skinny balsa wood, it's easy to cut with your scissors. So this is after I framed everything out. Looks good. And instead of adding a little bit of foam stones, I've been kind of using these real hobby stones. It just adds a little more weight to your piece, and it really does help out. Makes it a little more stable, a little more substance to it, and actually stops any potential warping, even though we did paint them already. I add a little bit more stones on there. I like to add a little bit of weight to my pieces. So that's after I've completed everything. Pretty happy with that set of walls. And now we're going to move on to the second one. So this is more of like a frontier style wall. I'm going to use that old willow fence. Definitely recommend buying some of that. Some areas you probably have it in the dollar store right away year round. But in Canada, I kind of have to wait till the summertime to get that stuff. But it's coming real handy. I've used it for all sorts of projects. So I just use a dowel to make my main posts that those logs are are going to sit in. And this is a really simple frontier fence that you can whip together really quickly. If you want to just have a quick fenced in area, this is a really simple design. Now, the only thing I did with those dowels is I put some texture into them, carved them up with my hobby knife a little bit. And here I'm just illustrating what I mean, just putting the timbers in between them. I'm going to probably put 3 sets of those timbers, and then on the one piece I'm going to make another set of timbers because I want this to be an L shape just like my other walls. So I'm just showing you about the hobby knife to carve that up, and then just use white tacky glue to glue it all together. So this is really simple. You know, I just got a couple of dowels and then just fire all this willow fence in here. I mean, really, you could probably use just sticks you find around in your yard or whatever, right? This willow fence is kind of treated already because it's meant to be in a garden. So it's got a little bit of a protective coating on it. And then when you seal it in with craft paint, you got a long-lasting fence going on there. So I just really added a little bit of white glue to each piece after I slapped them in there. Waited 10 minutes, and you got a good hold on those babies. They're not going anywhere. So then I just got that little piece sticking out there, and just so I got a nice L shape. And then I'm going to add stones similar to the other set of walls to add that weight. And I'm just going to apply it with white tacky glue. So there we go. We're now done our second fence. Pretty simple, easy design. You could probably fire off a whole schwack of these if you wanted to get something done real quick for an event, or you just want to spruce up your table real quick. That's a really easy one to do. So next one, we're going to use that's not dollar store, insulation foam. And I got my Olfa knife, and I'm going to cut these into little squares. So that's a 1/2-inch insulation foam if you just want to know the thickness. I cut it into strips that are probably 1 inch wide, and then I just cut them into little squares. I'm going to throw them in my coffee tin here, shake them up with the rocks, get them a little texture, and then I'm actually going to cut them in half because I want to create kind of like a flagstone look or a flat stone look to my wall. So then I cut some more dollar store foam board, similar to the stone wall I made in the last one, just to kind of have a center or a base so everything could be glued to it. So now when you're measuring this out, make sure that you measure in the thickness of the stones. So I'm planning on making a flat top to my stones, like that. And then I'm going to have stones on their side. Remember I was talking about those frontier or different stone fences I've seen in Europe where they have these stones on top like that. So now I just wanted to measure it out to make sure my Mini can shoot over top of them. So everything's measured out right, and now I duplicated it and cut that out again. Now that little nub there that I built, make sure you make a space for the stone. It's just so the two walls connect again so I can make an L shaped, and that's what I'm illustrating there. So you kind of have a core to your stone wall, just so it's easier to make it more uniform on here. This one's going to be a little bit more straight than the previous stone wall I made. Looked like a little more of a better mason built this one. So I'm just going to put those flat ones without cutting them on top, and that's going to give me a good base. And it kind of also gives me kind of a guide for how many, for when I put the stones down below, how high I can go. So everything seems straight instead of having it all over the place. You want to kind of have it capped off. So you can see how when I cut them in half, you get kind of like these little smaller pieces, but they look like they're stones just sitting on top of each other, flat stones. And that's kind of the look I was going for. So this is a little tedious. It's a lot of cutting little squares in half and gluing it on. But I only built 2, so it didn't take me that long. I would say this took me about 35, 40 minutes maybe. So I'm just showing you as I was going along. Really, the only part that was really tricky is where the little nub sticks out, where the two walls connected. It was a little trickier to make smaller cuts there. Where the straight wall is, this was really easy, actually. Now, I didn't mention when you cut those chunks of little squares out, try to make them different thicknesses, just so you have, as you can see, I have different thicknesses of stones in there. Some of them are uniform, but some of them are not. And I'm just kind of showing you, I got around that nibbly bit. Now, my son, you guys says, these look like sandbags. And I'm like, you know what? This might be a pretty good idea to make a sandbag wall, too, in the future. I wouldn't add the stones to the top. But definitely that could be a potential. I do want to make another trench system, and this could be a viable solution for building sandbag walls. I would kind of make it more of like a brick wall, so it looked like they actually stacked them in a way that made sense. This is more like on a farm, and somebody just kind of put some flat stones on there to make a wall. So I'm just showing you how it's going to connect together, and that's kind of what the look I was going for. So I'm not going to add any stones to this one, mainly because the wall already takes up enough space. So now we're going to move to our black coat, and we're going to cover all 3 sets of walls. Now that we've done fabricating, we're going to start the painting process. So I put this all on, and you know what? I let it dry for 24 hours. You could probably get away with 10 or 12, but if you want a really good seal and everything's in good shape, let it sit for 24 hours and everything is cured and dried. That black crap paint just seals everything in nicely, and you got sturdy pieces to paint on. You know, I always mention in previous episodes I'm pretty rough on my paint job, so I wanted to make sure everything's solid. So this is real brown, and this is kind of the colors that you guys are familiar with on this channel is me using. They're going to be all the same undertones. I'm going to start with the real brown. I got a plate there and some paper towel to kind of wipe out some of the paint out of my brush so it's not so thick. So this is after I've added the real brown. You can see it just has a bit of a brown tinge. I didn't want to get rid of all my black undertone, just because it gives some richness and shadowing to the other layers that we're going to add on top. I didn't clean my brush, as I mentioned before. I like to just keep going with the colors in there. So now we got some bark brown, just a lighter brown, and we're going to hit everything again. And I just want to mention that I did paint the bottoms too, just to add a little bit of color. I don't really show you that, but I just want to mention that I did paint the bottoms too. Just so it has a little bit of something a little more interesting than just plain old black on the bottom. So I'm just kind of showing you all the pieces with the bark brown and how it's just slowly lightening it up and creating a nice layers of earth tones on our terrain. So next is Pablo. This gives you some good highlights underneath, some brightness in certain areas. It's another good undertone. So you can see we got all sorts of oranges on here. This really adds a lot of contrast to your piece. So just taking one more look at everything just so you can see what it looks like with all those colors added on. Now, if you want to look at, I have other videos, especially where I did the weathered building, where I show you the actual technique of how I paint that onto my terrain. So that's camel. We're going to use that to touch up all our stones, really start giving it a more familiar stone feel to it. And then I want to use this yellow ochre and real brown mixture. I'm going to mix the two together, and we're going to lighten up those walls. I kind of want to give it a kind of a yellow ochre kind of wood look to it. That'll help when I add the washes and speed paints on there to give some real interest. So now I've moved to a smaller brush, which is actually clean. And I stopped using the big brush because we're going to do little finer details now. And you can see where I've added all that camel, and I got a nice little stone look to it. But really it's a base because I'm going to add some other colors to the top of that. So I'm just showing you the stones, and now I'm going to use my standard mixture just to kind of finish those stones off. We got some desert yellow here. These are all army painter paints, skeleton bone, necrotic flesh, and mummy robe.
And I just kind of put them in the order that I put them on the piece. So I start with the yellow and then work my way through those colors. So this is after I've added all those, and I'm really happy with my stone look. If you want it to be darker stones, you don't have to add as much of the mummy robe, and just kind of, you really adjust that to your personal preference. But I do plan on adding some washes and speed paints to this, so definitely that will change the color of these stones. I just want a good light undertone and a good stone look. So this is hardened leather, dark wood, and we got some dark stone, and we're going to use that to actually paint the wood. I want to give it an aged wood look and some different colors to it. So I'm going to use those 2 speed paints and grays, which I've done in that same painting tutorial I was talking about. And see, I got some different interests on there. Still, like I said, I'm going to add washes over top of this, but I just wanted to add some different colors in there and really add to the stone look to it. That's what I do, just build up layers, keep painting layers on top of each other. So again, just showing you all the different pieces. You can see I've added all sorts of different colors to those walls and get a nice interest. So now we're going to use Agrax Earth Shader. We got Skeleton Horde, and we got Commando green here. And that's kind of my grunge, I call it, my grunge crew. Dirty it all up, give it a little aged look to it. So I did go back afterwards. I wasn't happy with, I think I added too much green. And I went back with some mummy robe and kind of gave it a dry brushing on everything. And that kind of actually cleaned it up and made it a little bit less green. You'll see when we go through the final look at all of them. So now we're going to go to adding some plant life and some stones to things. I got some more stuff I found at Michael's, some clearance flowers. I ended up only just using that kind of lavender looking flower, kind of just something different or to my piece. I got some tufts from Army Painter. There's this flocking that I've been using, which really is just cheap green moss for $1.50 at the dollar stores, Dollarama. I got it out here in Canada. My Battleground Army Painter, which I love using, I use it in virtually all my terrain. And I like to do a stone back on the inside of the fence and then kind of the plant life on the outside. But I do plan on adding a little bit of plant life on the inside as well. So I'm just not going to show you all that. I just showed you the stuff that I'm going to add to it. But I just use white PVA glue. I use a crappy brush that I got and just kind of wipe it on in generous amount. And then I just kind of add those details to it. All right, so this is after I've done it all. You can see I really love that moss flocking with those stones. I just kind of push it down with my fingers so it kind of just looks like it's growing all around it. I really like the way that looks. There's that lavender, a little bit of green bushes now. That green bushes that I added on there, that's also from the dollar store. It's some more green moss that I got, and I just kind of used them as bushes. Same thing, Dollarama. Get some good stuff there. And just showing you all, I just kind of put on all the different fences. So it's a really cheap solution to adding plant life to your walls and fences for sure. So it came out real good. I'm really happy with the final product of these walls. And like I said, I'm going to explore that more Celtic fences and kind of maybe build a whole village or something would be really neat. I know it doesn't fit along the Blood and Plunder scene, but I hear Firelock Games might be making a Viking game, which could be very interesting. And that would be a really cool terrain to build for that. All right, so let's get down to the battlefield. Let's take a look at the fencing in action. So I got that, there's my nesting village, and I got this kind of Celtic fence around this village piece. And this really is, it's just fencing. It fits in really to anything you need to use it for. I call it Celtic fence because that's where I got the idea from, but really you could use this for anything. I just kind of want to do a buzz by of some of the new miniatures that I painted. There's some of those grenadiers that I are for the new Raise to Black. If you've been following my channel, you've seen some of the stuff I posted on my Instagram and on my Facebook group, showing off some of those new miniatures that Firelock Games has released. Yeah, we got some Pirates of Legend here. Definitely some really cool. There's some Blackbeard in there, and Bonnie. And it's just assorted pirates. I know we're kind of getting off a tangent here, but I just wanted to set the whole table up and show you a couple of different things. All right, let's get around to the other side here and look at some of these other. There's another piece of the nesting village, and we got our frontier wall here. I just realized after when I filmed this that I actually put it on backwards. I made all that effort to make it into an L shape, and look, I put the wall on the wrong way. It's one piece is supposed to be where the other one is. Anyways, I messed it up, but you guys get the point. And then moving over here to the third style wall, the stone wall. Really happy how this one turned out. Definitely want to expand on that one as well. I got some different ideas with that, and maybe those sandbag walls that my son was referring to. All right, that's pretty much a wrap on this episode. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. And I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Hopefully in the next episode, I will sound a little...